Welcome to another episode of Builders, Budgets, and Beers. Today, we are joined with Rudy Marroquin of Atlas Homes in Austin, Texas. Buckle up for this episode. You're going to leave motivated, intrigued, and ready to start a vertically integrated construction company. Rudy, oddly enough, maybe not oddly enough, was a football player for Texas A&M. He's been in the construction world for about 5 years now. And he's gone from doing door knocking to build his first 6,000 square foot home in the very beginning, all the way to building custom homes for investors out in California, flying his crews from Austin to California to keep costs low. I'm telling you, this guy, he's going to give you the scoop. And he's also going to give you a little bit of just a classic unorthodox lesson and how to manage your teams to get to where he is. So if you're interested in hearing this perspective, let's go ahead and dive in and hear a little bit about from Rudy. All right, Rudy, we are live, baby. We are recording. Okay, dude. Hey, I appreciate you for jumping on the show. Let's just go ahead and give the audience, a little introduction, a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Rudy Marroquin. I used to be an ex-Texas A&M football player way back in 2009, 2010.
No shit, okay.
I did not see myself pecking behind a keyboard. Always been passionate about construction, both residential and commercial. Started off as a superintendent and became the youngest VP of construction for a big commercial residential construction company here in Austin, Texas. Got married, decided, hey, you know what? It's time to spread my wings and fly on my own and see if I'm going to sink or swim. And so far, we're going on 5 years. Growth has doubled year over year, and we're blessed to be here.
Dude, I love it. Okay, so hey, Texas A&M football guy, huh? What'd you play? What was your position? Look at that, he's got the ring, baby. What were you?
I was a cornerback.
Dude, I love it. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so tell me a little about Atlas. What are you guys building?
So Atlas focuses on luxury residential. What I can say about Atlas is there are a lot of lessons that got learned on OPM, other people's money. Being the VP of construction for a big custom home builder, I learned where they stumble, where they trip. I speak Spanish, and we're vertically integrated as well. So I own 5 other businesses other than Atlas. I own some of the means of production. That allows me to cut down on timeline, schedule, build times, and costs, which all just are great value add to the client and the end user at the end of the day, right? When we started, I did my homework and my research. I could have easily done this in Houston, but a $2 million house in Austin is a $800,000 house in Houston. I could have done this in Dallas, but a $2 million house in Austin is a $2.5 million house in Dallas, except for everybody's a lot more well-funded. When I started Atlas, I opened the bank account with $500, signed up for my LLC, and went and door knocked on 50 realtors' doors. 2 of them actually took me serious. One of them had a client for me. I promised that client that I would build him the best possible house, the fastest I could. We built a 6,000 square foot house in 6 months, and that one client signed a 10-house contract.
Dude.
So we took off with 10 houses in year 1 after 6 months. And now we're nationwide, believe it or not. We're building out in Montecito in Santa Barbara, California. We're building out in the Palisades. We're starting the process of building out in Malibu. And we're building out in all the luxury areas here in Austin. Westlake, Spicewood, Terrytown, Rollingwood, you name it, we're there. Atlas is going on year number 5, and we've won Best Builder of the Year 3 years in a row.
Dude, Rudy, you're a badass, dude. 5 years in construction, $500 in your bank account. Now you're starting to expand into California. You built your first house, 6,000 square footer in 6 months. Dude, how are you doing this so fast?
Well, we're vertically integrated, right? So I own the framing. I own the framing company. I own the garage store company. I recently acquired a cabinet company, and we own the labor side of things as well. So the tile installers, the trim carpenters, things of that nature. There's been a lot of learning lessons to go along the way, right? And it helps that the fact that I speak Spanish, right? So
Yeah.
when somebody like you would go up to Juan and Jose and say, how much is it to frame a house? They're going to say it's going to be $10 a square foot. You now have to charge your client $12.50 in order to make your margins.
Mm-hmm.
When I go up to them and I say cuánto, and they tell me it's $7.50, well, I just saved my client 25%,
Yeah.
right? And so we're able to play the game different. You know,
Sure.
there's different ways to go about being a builder. What I can tell you is Atlas is not focused on being a luxury residential builder. What I'm trying to focus on is building a brand. I want people to drive by and say, "Damn, that's an Atlas house." And
Totally.
so far, I think we're on the right path.
Dude, I love that. I love that. Okay, so super interesting perspective on just your ability to speak Spanish and play the game differently. But I'm even so the vertical integration piece. I've heard it. Actually, do you know Thomas Joseph, Thomas and Gabe, JDB in
Yeah.
Austin?
So Gabe Joseph is a good mentor of mine. I actually frame for him currently.
Okay, beautiful. I literally just had Thomas on the podcast like last week. And that's what they were talking to. Like they attribute a lot of their success to like verticalizing the business and running everything from like the marketing, the design, the building, everything in house. My question is like with you going to California, how do you deploy your teams and efforts from Austin to California, or do you have crews there? Like, how are you doing it?
So, believe it or not, I was building a house. Well, I'm currently building a house right now for one of my clients. He is Eastern European. He's from Poland.
Okay.
He happens to have a mentor, and we're building a house for him that he's never going to live in. He's just going to list it. He's going to list it for $3 million, and we're building it for him for $1.2 million. After
Okay.
lot costs, he's looking at clearing well over $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
His mentor heard about that, said, I want to meet this guy. I want to see if it's possible. Flew me out to Santa Barbara. And I, you know, just being, I guess, overconfident and cocky guy that I am, I said, well, let me figure this out, see if I can make it happen logistically. And what we're doing is we're literally taking my Texas crews and flying them out to Santa Barbara to be able to build half a mile away from where Oprah Winfrey lives, a mile away from where Ariana Grande lives, and a block over from where Meghan Markle and Prince Harry live.
Dude, that is insane. Okay, so you're literally flying your crews to Santa Barbara.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how does all of that work from a dollars and cents standpoint? You just bake that into your cost, or like explain that to me?
So travel costs and accommodations. What we did is it's an oversized lot. We bought two RVs that can sleep four apiece. So we're able to fly out 8 guys at a time. So right now I have my dirt crew out there doing all of the lot prep and foundation work. Here in the next 2 weeks on the 21st, I fly out there with 8 guys, which are my framing crew, and we'll be out there for a month, right? While my project managers run the business here, I stay in constant contact via video calls and phone calls regularly, right? So we're still able to coordinate things accordingly, right? But that's part of the benefit of being vertically integrated, right? California framing prices are $40 a square foot. We're charging our client literally $18 a square foot.
Dude,
so
yes,
he is ecstatic to the point where he already signed on for 15 other houses.
Dude, okay, so that makes all the sense in the world. So you can offer Austin prices selling a product in California. So you have so much room, the client does, to absorb those travel costs, the added cost, and like the RVs and all that stuff. And they're still just getting a killer product at a fraction of the price.
That's correct. So we're building a 8,000 square foot house in California right now in Montecito. I think the construction cost alone is going to be about $4 million. The lot cost was $2 million, and the exit sale price of it is $12 million.
Beautiful. Okay, so there's 4 million upside on that thing. Did I math that out right?
There's 6 million.
Six. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So I'm not a math guy, but dude, that's great. Okay. So this is all awesome, and we'll get like deeper into this. But just being a vertically integrated business, I'm going to keep going back to that because I think that's an interesting thread, especially just with like how contractors are viewing their businesses, how they're growing, how like, and I have the the phrase of, are you monetizing a hobby or are you building a business? Right. And I think a lot of guys are kind of in this position, whether it be, interest rates or, the market cooling down or tariffs or insert whatever shortcoming, right? They're really staring down the barrel of a huge opportunity. And I think vertical integration is an interesting concept that a lot of builders could start adopting to start, leveraging and bringing more upside to their business. But how do you run the financials on that? Like, how do you keep track of everything?
Well, that's where Adaptive comes in, right? Adaptive integrated with our QuickBooks fairly seamlessly. Like I mentioned before, I didn't know Adaptive even had a podcast, so this is all raw, fresh information. And I like people that are very persistent. I like perseverance. Being in construction, our main goal is to be problem solvers, right? Mm-hmm. So being problem solvers can entail anything from a timeline, a budget, a permit issue, right? Some sort of architectural design issue. I mean, architects these days, they design pieces of art, right? They don't necessarily design functional houses. And so what we're able to do, especially on the financial side of it, I made it very, very simple. I have a handful of friends that I consider family. They're my best friends, and I consider them my brothers. And I call them my idiots. And I just picked one idiot and put them to run one company, and put the other idiot to run another company, and kind of mix and matched until I figured out, hey, you know what? Eric is really good at sales for fences for my fencing company, Texas Star Fence. Freddie is really good at cabinet sales, so he's going to run Atlas Custom Cabinets, right? We have Kristen, my wife, who's really good at home sales. She's also a licensed realtor, so she does a lot of outreach for Atlas, right? And so we have Logan that came from the garage installer world that came to me. I personally plugged him and said, you know what, you're now a project manager. And he said, hey, one day he just looked at me and he was like, how much are we paying for those garage doors? Well, we're paying $20,000. He's like, I can get those for about $5,000. And I'm like, me and you are starting a garage door company. And everything kind of just fell in line organically.
Okay, cool. So so from a financial standpoint, like, how are you running financials? Like, you plugged Adaptive, you kind of like, how did you like build the structure of your business? How do you keep everything straight? Like, in terms, like, obviously, like, you're using Adaptive, obviously you love your business. Thanks for being on board. But like, how do you actually run I've got my framing crew that's going out there, and then I'm going to build that back to my general contractor. And how do you keep all that straight at the volume that you're doing?
That goes down to my COO, right? His name is Philip. And he's the one that I actually pawned off the Adaptive rep that was very persistent about getting our business.
Wait. So Philip pawned, like, he was just like, stop calling me, or what did he say?
Yeah, I literally told the Adaptive rep, stop emailing me, stop calling me. If you want our business, after 3 months of him being very, very persistent, I was like, call this guy, call Philip, let him bet you and see what he says. And it was more or less of me just kind of brushing him off and saying, I'll never hear from this guy again. Yeah. Sure enough, he called Philip as soon as I hung up with him. And an hour later, I get a phone call from Philip saying, hey, we're signing up for Adaptive. And I'm like, okay, dude. I mean, if you think that's the right move, let's make it happen. We've been extremely happy. Right. But how we handle all of the financials is actually very simple. It's very streamlined, because we keeping everything in house and we're enclosing the circle. I always call it a circle, right? And so we're about 3/4 of the way. I'm never gonna be vertically integrated, owning the MEP trades, the plumbers, the HVACs, the electricians, right? There's no point in that. I'm not putting the man hours to go get those licenses. But what we do is we're able to price out every single project through our vertically integrated businesses, and we know exactly what the cost is going to be. So when an invoice needs to be sent, well, Philip runs. He's the CEO of my company, right? So
Yeah.
he runs the invoicing, and he's invoices. He's accounts payable and accounts receivable. So he knows
Okay.
exactly where it goes.
Totally. Okay. So Philip is COO, right? Chief Operating. But he's also kind of wearing the CFO hat a little bit. He's in the accounting arm a little bit too.
That's correct.
Okay, so how did you identify Philip as being that guy, or at least like owning that? And I asked because I did an episode with a builder in Fort Worth, and it was talking about like the difference between a bookkeeper, a controller, a CFO, and like when you need what and like how to get them. I'll share a little bit after you share, but I'm curious, like how did you identify and be confident to give Philip as more of an operating guy the responsibility to run the books, basically?
This is actually very funny, right? So my father-in-law, he owns his own oil and gas business based out of Houston, Texas, right? And Philip was a younger guy. I think he's about 32 years old, so he's not much younger than me. But he's like, hey, I got this Philip kid that, you know, he's too smart to just be a welder, because that's what he was just a welder.
Damn.
He's like, he's too smart to just be a welder. He's like, but I don't know if he's, smart enough to handle, the intricacies of running the oil and gas business. And my father-in-law kind of pawned him off on me and said, you know what, like, he doesn't know anything about construction, but the guy's going to be loyal like no other. And I gave him a shot, and he's been with me going on 5 years.
Dude, that's insane. Welder turned to COO. Okay, and what were the traits that you were looking for in that? What were the what gave you the confidence to like throw him into that role?
The loyalty and just trust, right? There's two things you can't buy. You can't buy loyalty from any of your employees, and you can't buy trust and confidence in somebody, right? And so like I said, when we first started Atlas, I started Atlas with $500 in the bank account, and I didn't pay myself, and I didn't pay Philip. Philip did not receive a paycheck from Atlas until after year one, right? While most people would have ran for the hills, he's like, I'm learning. I don't deserve to get paid. Once I get it down, if we're profitable and we're making money, and I see your vision and I trust your vision, and I think you're going to do big things, and I'm going to follow you until the wheels fall off, right? And so that's the type of loyalty that you just can't buy, right? And so a lot of my guys are like that. I've had guys that, I started, one of my project managers, his name's Tyler. I started paying him $85,000, and after 3 months, he handled about 6 houses for me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to give you a raise to 100,000. His first instinct wasn't to say thank you. His first instinct wasn't to, be extremely appreciative. His first instinct was to say, no, I don't want it. I don't deserve it. I see what you're trying to build here. I see the vision that you have going. I don't want to, be a detriment to the company by taking more money. And I was like, well, sorry, you don't have a choice. And I gave him $100,000 salary, right? And he's been there, and he's with me to this day. I mean, one of my clients offered him $200,000 salary, and he said no. He's like, no, I'm happy where I'm at. And one of the biggest rules that I have with all of my employees is very simple. I don't interview, because usually I know them. I know their work ethic, and I know what they're about. But I always say the hardest part about working with me is working with me, right? I also say, if I have to, I'm not your daddy, and I'm not your babysitter.
Yep.
Right. And if I have to babysit you, and if I have to tell you what to do, then I don't need you. Right. And so it's a little bit of tough love, but it's a lot fair, right? There's no PTO. They can take off whenever they want. They'll still get paid. They'll still get their salary. They can go handle their household. And that's another thing that I always tell my guys. If your house is in order, your business isn't going to be in order. So
right.
If you have problems at home, you handle it and you come back. Right. But make sure, everything is taken care of. Make sure everything is in order business wise.
Dude, go ahead.
Well, we have a very open system of communication. We talk to each other every day. and we hang out every weekend. And these guys are becoming my friends and family.
Dude, this is just about as like scrappy and like just grind and like just total confidence winning in business. I gotta ask, was there ever a learning lesson or like a situation that stands out to you to where like shit almost fell off the tracks or like it didn't work? Because like again, like this is just all like this is great. This is all textbook, just like trust your people, bring in loyal people, take big risks, find great opportunities, execute. Like there's got to be some like story that you have where shit almost fell off the tracks.
Believe it or not, we've been extremely blessed so far that we haven't been in that situation, right? There's been a lot of learning lessons and a lot of learning curves, right? There's a lot of things and a lot of uncomfortable conversations that needed to be had with both clients and buyers, that I personally had to learn how to handle, right? So, for instance, one of the things that I still don't do to this day is I'm very blunt, right?
Yeah.
I run 5 businesses, so I'm a bull in a china shop type of deal. Clients sometimes need a soft landing approach, and so sometimes the conversation needs to be had by one of my project managers or one of my guys instead of with me, because I'm more of the type that will come in and say, "This is the problem, this is the solution, move on to the next issue," type of thing. And clients need to be kind of taken care of and handled accordingly, and that's something that I personally need to learn. Right, as far as have we been in a situation where things almost fell off track? We haven't. Right, we've been extremely blessed. We've been extremely blessed to the point where, you know, even when we miss something. So one of our first houses, the architect didn't do a very good job of laying out the exterior elevation, and most of the house was stucco, but 2 pop outs were brick. Well, they were painted white brick and they were painted white stucco, and it didn't call it out. Client comes in at a buyer walk and he's like, "Where's my brick?" And I'm like, "What brick?" I'm like, "Oh, it's a little note right here, 2 pages off from the exterior elevation page." And I'm like, "Okay, I missed it." Right? That mistake cost me about $37,000.
Damn.
We ate it. We didn't ask for a dime from the client, but one thing that we did do is make sure it never happens again.
Totally. Okay, so there's nothing been like just like totally detrimental or like a situation where like everything almost came unglued, but you have like those like little hiccups. Is that kind of your MO? Is like if there is a hiccup like that, you guys just eat it, or how do you mitigate those types of like 30, 40, $50,000 losses that builders are just plagued with?
So again, we play the game differently than most builders, right? And a lot of builders, when they give you a proposal or price out of your project, there's going to be 3 items in there that you're not going to ever see on our price sheet, right? One of them is going to be a project management fee. The other is going to be an overhead fee. And then the third one's going to be a contingency fee. And they're usually always about 10%. Then at the very bottom of that, they're either going to charge you about 10% or 15% for a builder fee, right? Well, that's compounded on top of the 3 other line items that they're already charging you for, right? And so we're able to acquire clients that way because we don't charge them that, right? At the end of the day, that builder's really charging the client 40%. We charge our clients a flat margin of 25 to 30%, depending on, you know, the type of build that it is. And so when it comes to those hiccups, we are able to use those as a learning lesson. We are able to absorb those. And the lessons that you learn best is the ones that hurt.
Yeah.
Right. And so being, you know, 5 years old, being a 5-year-old company, we are going to have those hiccups. And we want to make sure that we're here for the long run. And in order for us to do that, those lessons have to hurt so they never happen again.
All right, team, little shameless plug for you. And no, this is not an ad. We aren't getting paid $1, but this is for the Contractor Coalition Summit that is coming up in Chicago, November 7th through the 10th. It is 4 full days of behind the curtain learning, networking, collaboration with the most intentional and serious builders in the country, led by Brad Levitt at AFT, Nick Schiffer at NS Builders, Morgan Molitar at Construction to Style, Mark Williams at Mark D. Williams Custom Homes in Minneapolis, and Tyler Grace at TRG. Now, the reason why I'm plugging this is because it truly, weeks after having been there, we're seeing the benefits of this program. Talking to our customers, talking to the people that have been there. I've been communicating with people over the phone. Everyone is just still riled up over it. And again, largely this comes down to networking, collaboration, intentional learning to take tactical business takeaways into your day-to-day. So if you are interested in participating, we do have a code. It is adaptive25, and that'll get you a 20% discount on the Contractor Coalition Summit. Now, you have plenty of time to register. I would urge you to go to their website. We can post the link in our posts, but you'll get a 20% discount if you use adaptive25 as your code, and start drinking the Kool-Aid, guys, because I'm telling you, the people that leave are totally energized, they're totally amped, and they're applying the takeaways they get from the Contractor Coalition Summit, and they're seeing the results. Totally. Okay, so you said that you're running like a 20 to 30% margin. Do you mean margin or do you mean markup?
Margin.
Damn. Okay, so then what is your markup?
My markup, if you pull it down to a percentage, is about 32%.
32? Damn. Okay, dude. So you're just running lean. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. That's good stuff. What would you say to the listener that's trying to execute and build something like you've built? Like, what is the best piece of advice you can give them?
The best piece of advice is keep pushing on and keep going, right? Always listen to your resources. Always try to network. Always try to make sure that you steadily keep educating yourself, right? That is key and critical. Stay ahead of the trends. Stay ahead of what is flashy currently, right? Starting Atlas here in Austin, there was a lot of modern farmhouse. There was a lot of what we call the hill country Mediterranean with the clay roofs. Well, we brought in the California casual architecture style, right? Flat roofs, parapet walls, smooth stucco, level 5 finishes, concrete floors or very high-end wood floors, white oak cabinets, black walnut cabinets, things of that nature. Well, within, I would say, 18 to 24 months, these bigger builders that were more established are now building that product, right? Yeah. And so there's going to be, being an entrepreneur and being in business alone, it's a roller coaster ride. You're going to have ups and downs, right? But make sure that you enjoy the downs as much as you enjoy the ups, right? Because it's what's going to keep you level and it's what's going to keep you motivated, right? It's very easy to burn out. It's very easy to get unmotivated. And additionally, you also have to understand not every client's for you. Personality matches are very, very critical and key, right? And so when the market's doing great, you're going to see builders riding around in brand new F-350s, right? Or whatever, Lamborghinis or Ferraris or Tesla trucks here in Austin, right? Yep. And when the market's slow, there's going to be fire sales. Be prepared for when the market's slow, because that's when you make your money.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so when someone is like, I totally agree with like, take the highs as the highs and the lows as the lows. Like, you've got to maintain like a certain level of consistency in that. It can't always be up and to the right. Obviously, we want it to be there. But when someone is feeling like overwhelmed or stuck or like they're getting burned on that, what advice would you give them there to like tactically deal with it? Like, how do you prepare for the lows? How do you balance those lows?
You got to be able to take a step back. You got to be able to take a step back. And what I mean by that is, by taking a step back, that doesn't mean regress. It means analyzing the situation from a bird's eye view, right? It's very easy to get caught up in the clog of whatever the issue might be, right? But being able to kind of remove yourself from the situation and analyze it with a cold head and no feelings whatsoever is really what's going to make you persevere and push through whatever issue that may be plaguing, right? As far as somebody being kind of quote unquote stuck in where they're at, they have to be able to find their niche and exploit that, right? You can't be a jack of all trades. And that sounds a little hypocritical coming from me, being the fact that I do own multiple businesses, but I'm also putting special people in each of those sections and each of those facets of those businesses that I trust, that I know are going to be loyal, not only to me, but to the company itself, right? And so being able to take a step back, analyzing the situation with a cold head and no feelings is really what's going to give you the best solution for whatever issue you might have.
Dude, I think that's great. I think that's great. I think that, taking a step back, that can be one of the hardest things. And it's like that old adage, right? Of like, are you working on the business or are you working in the business? Right? It's like you can get bogged down. If you're a bags on guy and you love being out in the field and you love being the tradesman, right? That's one thing. But as a business owner, you've got to have the self-awareness and the ability to pull yourself out of the situation and not get emotional about it and be like, okay, here's the reality of what we're dealing with here. This is going to be the best course of action for us to save whatever we can on this or make the best of the situation we're in.
That's correct.
Dude, I love it. Rudy, this was great. I'm amped. I'm pumped up. I'm ready to go start a vertically integrated construction company, dude. I appreciate you hopping on the show, dude.
I really love being here. It's a good opportunity. It's always good to have conversations with people. And like I said, you guys have been extremely well and great to us. And I'm very happy that the sales guy, it was very persistent and was able to convince Philip to get us on board.
Yeah, dude. Hey, we've loved having your business. I mean, if there's anything that we can do, I mean, we've been rolling stuff out like crazy. I don't know how much you're actually in adaptive, but if Philip ever needs to get on and explore more stuff, or we need to get you guys taken care of on the other sides, let us know.
I'll tell you what I told that guy. Talk to Philip.
Talk to Philip, baby. Talk to Philip. Philip's the guy. He's got the keys to the castle. COO, CFO. I love it, dude. Well, you be well and have a great rest of your week, dude.